Guys, what does it mean when a channel that makes almost nothing but firearm videos has a video called Firearms? I don't know, but this is Mike Burnfire's Burial, Beefless, and Firearms. And I'm Paul, your combat veteran guide to whatever the hell this is. Let's get started. But first, a word from our sponsors. Today's video is sponsored by Manscaped. Manscaped is the world's leader in below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped just debuted the Lawnmower 4.0, their latest generation trimmer. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with promo code VET at manscaped.com. When I was younger, there were no men's grooming products. There was no one to give you the tools you needed to do the job down there correctly. It was just whatever nonsense your classmates told you in the locker room. I tried to shave the hair down there like I shaved my face, but the result was super patchy. The hair was all different lengths. It looked awful. It looked like I had tried to trim in the dark. Thankfully, nowadays we have Manscaped. The Lawnmower 4.0 is a game changer. It's lightweight and nimble, but it still has the power to take care of business. And the ceramic blade skin-safe technology reduces cuts and nicks. Best of all, it's water resistant, so you can use it in the shower or just run it under the faucet to clean it when you're done. And its wireless charger means that you can just put it away in its docking station and it'll charge up for next time. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code VET at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com to use code VET. Unlock your confidence with the new Lawnmower 4.0 from Manscaped. Okay, let's get into it.
Random question, what kind of burial do you want?
Well, I honestly don't care because I'll be dead.
I want all of my organs donated.
That's an important condition, but not actually specifying the kind of burial you want, right? And actually, before you deploy, you go through a series of stations. Okay, you're right. Sorry. In the weeks leading up to your deployment, you go through a series of basically administrative stations. They do things like check your vaccination record to make sure you've had all your required vaccines. Make sure that your pay is up to date and do the necessary paperwork to ensure you get things like your hazard pay or your combat zone pay. But one of the things you're required to do is actually formulate a will. I think technically you have to consent to obviously formulate the will, but almost no one declines. They have a lawyer right there. They have a pre-populated form where they ask you, they have it down to 5 or 6 questions. They're like, who's your next of kin who you think you want to receive your benefits if you pass? Do you want to impose any conditions on those benefits, i.e. you can have my saving, but I said hey, I want to make sure at the time my little brother was in college, I'm like, hey, I want to make sure his college, some of my remaining money goes to his college. And then of course they ask, where do you want to be buried in the event of your death? Or how do you want to be buried? So I was like, if I'm going to die in a deployed, I'd like to be buried in Arlington. But that's a choice that the Army actually encourages you to think about before you deploy. Obviously, because dying with no will, what's called dying interstate, is legally very, very complicated. And when you're talking about tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars of benefits, especially when there are things like ex-spouses, new spouses, stepkids, kids with the ex, those sort of estate disputes can become very, very fraught, especially because they're supercharged by the emotions surrounding a loved one's death.
That's good. I'm an organ donor as well.
I want all my organs donated. I have 3 options that I'm letting people choose from.
Take my organs and bury me, take my organs and throw me off a cliff, or take my organs and burn me alive.
Ooh, the Viking effigy strategy. I believe there's actually practicing pagans in the military that are recognized, and I believe this is actually a funeral option for them.
Not alive. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Take my organs and bury me. Send my body to one of those body farms where they just throw bodies in the middle of the woods.
They just chuck a body in there?
Yeah, it's just a big fenced off area that's in the woods that nobody is allowed into except for police detectives that are going through training, and they just leave bodies out there in the woods so that they can start decomposing so police officers can see what bodies look like at different stages of decomposition.
Yeah, he's exactly right. It's also actually done for research. They won't, for example, take everyone, I believe, in the police academy to these body farms. Instead, they're done for very specific types of research. For example, let's say someone says, hey, we think we can extract a fingerprint from a body that's been decomposed for up to 6 weeks, let's say. Well, they go, okay, let's test this out. Can you lift fingerprints from this body? Or they say, hey, we want to refine this technology that can get a DNA sample of highly degraded DNA. And that's what they'll do. Even things like, for example, hey, do we have this technology that can detect a submerged body? They may have places where they can actually do that. They can put the bodies in like a swamp and see if they can be detected. It's also used for other types of research. Again, almost always forensic research about why bodies decompose, and then how much information you can learn from those decomposing bodies. And again, I suspect rather, that by the time you're testing something on these human cadavers, that you've probably vetted it using animals like pigs or something, another mammal that's approximately the same weight as a human and is going to decompose in more or less the same way.
Is that the purpose of that farm?
That is actually the purpose of the body farm, is so that they can get experience to see what a body is going to look like at different stages of decomposition. And it actually helps solve crimes. And I think that's a really good thing for it.
Here I was just thinking it was a naturalist's ideal way to go.
I'll get to that one in a second. The third option I have is like donating my body to science so that medical students can poke and prod at it and do all kinds of fun stuff like that. If I'm buried...
Yeah, so my wife said that her medical school actually, it's hard to... So obviously there's not a lot of people that donate their bodies to science, and so usually it is a group of 3 to 4 medical students that will do their dissection of the human body, right? It's their only opportunity often to see the body parts that they learn about and the systems that are learned about in theory in practice. But in her school, because there was a strong commitment to humanistic medicine, or like the humanities aspect of it, she actually knew, I believe, if I remember correctly, the name and some background information about the person they were dissecting. The school even, I think, if I remember correctly, did a ceremony where sort of like they got to express gratitude to this person's life and their decision to allow themselves to contribute to their medical education and give these physicians in training additional experience. So I think that was actually a really cool way to do it, and it makes you feel better about the idea that, like, yes, you're donating the body to science, but it is not treated entirely like a science experiment, right? It's treated like a human being who is giving these students a pretty significant gift.
I want to either be cremated, but not really, because that's like really expensive. I want it's called a natural burial. And what they do is they basically wrap you in linen cloths and bury you 6 feet underground. I don't want an open casket funeral. I don't really even want like a whole funeral or anything. I just want my body to be wrapped in linen and buried 6 feet underground somewhere. It's perfectly acceptable. That's what we did for like thousands of years before we decided putting people into coffins was a good idea.
What if your family wanted to...
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I actually sort of agree with him on this. I think it'd be nice. I also think that like returning your body's energy and its form to sort of the earth to be redistributed again is it's going to happen no matter what, right? Coffin or not. But to sort of embrace that idea that like, hey, you are going to be returned to the natural place that sort of you were conjured out from, and your energy will grow a tree and a bug and a flower and a ant or a squirrel or something. Like that's cool too.
To have a presentation and wanted to do...
I know this isn't very military, but it's what I will say is my wife has dealt with a lot of patients who are going through their end of life care, right? And a lot of times they are not prepared for it, and their families aren't prepared for it. And their families, you have this person, right? Imagine they arrive to a hospital, they're extremely ill. Maybe they've had some sort of event where they are alive, but will not be alive for more than a few days or weeks. And they say, okay, we have to find this person's family. Person may not be able to communicate. You have to find a family member, any family member, who can get them in touch with the next of kin decision maker. And often there's 3 or 4 key decision makers, maybe a sibling, a child, a spouse. And the problem is usually when you can find them, right, it's really hard to get consensus over what should happen. And what she always jokes, I think, they call it some version of like the other coast sibling. And usually there's one sibling or one person who has done the vast majority of the caretaking, who has had these long conversations with the patient and said, hey, what is it that you want? Do you want us to medically intervene if you get ill or incapacitated? At what point, like, what is your line in the sand where you say, hey, if I am this sick, I don't want you guys to intervene and try to bring me back? And usually these conversations are sort of verbal, or they're just intense, that are just sort of verbalized by the patient while they're in better condition. But without a written record, what often happens is another child will fly in, and that child will have a lot of guilt surrounding not being there for their parent during their illness, and they will not want to abandon medical care. They'll feel like they showed up emotionally. They'll be like, hey, I only arrived here at the tail end of the illness, and now you want me to sign off on stopping treatment? Like I never did anything, right? And that guilt is pretty tremendous, and it can often result in a lot of discord, and it can result, unfortunately, in these patients having a lot of very painful and pretty much useless interventions to keep them alive when they could, in fact, have a less painful experience at the end of their lives. So it's really important to write down these conversations and to have them with older family members, right? To sit down and be like, hey, where can I find your written directions? I think you can even go online. Some hospitals, I think, have even like free worksheets that they're not like legal wills, but if you fill them out with 2 or 3 other like key decision makers, your children, sibling, spouse, parent, partner, around you, and you write it out and sign it, a judge can treat it as a last will and directive.
Do all that normal stuff.
I'm gonna get it put in my will that's what I want done with my body. I don't want them spending money on a funeral.
Okay, but again, it's not what you want, it's about what they want. And
no, if you have a will, it's about what you want.
You're gonna have the energy to write a will.
Before I went to Iraq, we did have to fill out a last will and testament and like a life insurance policy. And on my last will and testament before I went into Iraq, I told my family that if I died in Iraq, I wanted my tombstone to say, I can't fucking believe I gave my life for this shitty country.
That's great. That is awesome.
You think they would have gone through with that?
I highly doubt they would have, but it was going to be in my will, and they would have had to contest it.
I mean, they might have, right? I mean, I've seen, there's a viral video somewhere of a woman who always used to say, I'll give you the recipe to my chocolate chip cookies over my dead body. And then she must have put it in her will because on her grave is a recipe. It's like mom's chocolate chip cookies, And I've seen some where they would do it. Like, I would imagine they would sit there and be like, here lies Zach, a soldier, a brother, a friend, even in death, known for his dry wit. And then in quotes, I can't believe I gave my life for this shitty country.
They would have had to go to a lawyer and be like, we're not doing this. And a lawyer would have to be like, well, this was on his last will and testament, so you kind of have to.
So that was after you'd been in for a few years.
Yeah.
Once the nationalism had drained from you.
Once all the nationalism was gone and I was ready to get out of the military, and then the military said, no, my friend, we're sending you to Iraq. Have fun, buddy.
Oh, that is the worst. They called it stop loss. Stop loss was, in the press, they called it the backdoor draft. It wasn't really correct, but it was soldiers who had reached the end of their contract, and the military was so desperate to have enough people to deploy that they said, hey, if you are on orders to deploy and your contract ends, you cannot be released from your contract until after your deployment. Which, again, if you're signing a 4-year contract, they generally give you those deployment orders 6 months out. So you could potentially be as much as a year and a half of extra time added to a 4-year contract.
I literally wrote that down on the form, and the person that was helping fill out the form, who was a civilian, she's like, do you want to add anything to it? Yeah, I want to add this. Wrote that down on there, and she's just like...
She sighs heavily.
It's like, whatever. This is my will. It ain't yours. You can put whatever you want on your tombstone. I don't give a fuck.
Well, when I die, I honestly don't care. In fact, before there was an option to check organ donor yes or no on the driver's license, you had to inscribe if you wanted that.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that on our licenses.
So on the back of mine, I just wrote, when I'm dead, I won't care. Take them all.
I mean, it's true, guys. Those donations, those organ donations are really important. Really essential. The wait lists are so long, and it's really sad. Like, for example, if you guys ever drive around and you see DaVitas, those are dialysis centers where people who have failed or failing kidneys have to spend like 6 hours a day trying to basically have a machine function as their kidneys. It's really, really awful. And you see them like everywhere because people don't realize kidney disease is a huge killer of Americans. And when your kidneys start to fail, it's hugely problematic. So all that to say, if you can donate, if your religion permits it, which I think almost all major religions do now, you absolutely should.
It's like,
just to save people from spending 4 hours a day in a DaVita dialysis center.
Mike gets hit by a bus or something, and some homeless guy comes up and like rifles through his wallet, and he's like, finally, the nipples I always wanted.
Oh, Jesus. The nipples count as an organ?
It just like hacks them off with a butter knife and runs away.
Or we have the attorneys get involved. Oh, this is Mike's last will and testament. He said when he dies, we can take everything he owns.
Then they come over to your house and there's nothing in here.
You ever see The Simpsons where they go to Lenny's apartment and it's just a milk crate and like a can of soup, and Lenny's like, "Don't tell anyone how I live." That's the ultimate troll, right? For Mike to just, what you should do if you really want to be a last will and testament troll. I don't know why I'm giving you guys this advice, but you're here. You've watched the video this long, right? What you should do is write your will as though you are a person of tremendous wealth, right? To the companies I leave, they should be inherited with the consent and advice of the board of directors to my children, maybe, right? My accounts can be found here. The overseas account in China, that should be passed to the board, who can then disperse it, like everything. Just allude to all these accounts, all these businesses, all these interests in different countries, like really ham it up, right? And just get the wording just right, so that's like for any accounts overseas, as though it's assumed you know what I'm talking about. And then when you die, have nothing. Have given everything away. You have one checking account with like $13.79. You have an apartment with like a milk crate and a can of beans that's half eaten. Like, just, I mean, admittedly, you have to time your death just right? You got to really know your actuarial tables. But man, it would be so funny just to have this attorney be like, "Yo, man, this guy's got a lot. This guy's loaded," and then, you know, your family finds out, they're like, "No, actually, he gave away everything to some charity. He died broke."
Joke's on you, I'm poor.
Fine, I'm taking this fucking chair then. There's some colleges that will actually pay you money if you promise to donate your body to them when you die.
Yeah, because medical students got to poke at them.
Should look into see if I can get a couple $100.
If we...
I always wonder, I don't want to say specialty bodies. Are specialty bodies worth more? Because I feel like if you're, let's say, the military and you want to test the effect of different protective gear on soldiers, which they need bodies for, if you wanted to do that, would they pay more if you were like a young male of military age, like between 18 and 40, versus like, you know, when you're 87 or whatever?
Medical students didn't have bodies to experiment on. How do we know what the human body looks like without an ear accidentally being taken off?
What a hot take, friends.
I decided to be a pollo vegetarian.
So you eat chicken and vegetables?
Yes.
Is this recent?
Yes.
Why?
Because cows have a huge impact on the environment. And they are burning sections of rainforest to make way for cattle raising, and I don't want to be responsible for that.
Wow, this is a really well thought out position.
Oh, okay.
I will go cow-free.
All right.
No more beef. It makes me sad. I do enjoy the occasional steak or hamburger, but no more.
Why don't you just eat the Impossible Burgers?
You have had some of those vegetable burgers. Are they good?
No, I liked them. I thought they were pretty good. If you hadn't told me that it was a vegetable burger, I probably wouldn't have known the difference.
Guys, he is absolutely right. The Beyond Burgers are good, but the Impossible Burgers are excellent. Right? Impossible Burgers, if you cook them just a little bit wrong, they kind of get this like chemically taste to them. Impossible Burgers, spot on. Spot on. That said, the Beyond sausages are awesome. Their hot Italian is like top notch, honestly. They're great. They are great. The like soy burgers and the veggie patties and the fake chicken soy, yeah, I don't touch that, right? But I tried them, and I was a skeptic, dude. I mean, I am a skeptical man, especially around engineered meats. But I'm like, these are solid. And nutritionally, they're actually almost identical to burgers. Same protein content and everything.
I might know the difference since I ate my hamburgers plain.
Yeah, I had a lot of other vegetables and stuff on it,
Yes.
so...
I enjoy...
Yeah, we've also done them sometimes as like Impossible ground meat. Like you buy just a chunk of the meat and you kind of cook it up. And if you do it with like taco seasoning and stuff as like a taco filling, it's also pretty good.
the succulent taste of a hamburger. I didn't want it smothered by other things like condiments, so I probably wouldn't enjoy the veggie.
I mean, the weird thing with beef, at least in the United States, is the government subsidizes beef production like a lot because it's really expensive, right? The bigger an animal is, the less efficiently it uses its food. That's just because a large body requires a lot of energy just to sustain itself, right? If you ever use like the MyFitnessPal apps, you notice it asks you for your height and weight. And that's so it can know, hey, if you're, a 6'4", 300-pound Nordic dude, just to maintain your 600, your 300 pounds, you're going to need a lot of calories that just get burned and turned into energy. So in contrast, if you're a small animal like a chicken, right, the baseline metabolic rate to just continue to do chicken stuff is not that high, right? It doesn't require that much fuel. And so that's why cows are such inefficient sources of meat. Now, originally it was to provide price stability to farmers and to ensure that regular Americans could buy beef. The government sort of added all these subsidies to keep beef affordable and to make sure that cattle ranchers could afford every year to raise cattle, right? Because when prices would drop, it would mean that, everyone in America could buy beef, but cattle ranchers would actually lose money. Like the cows would eat more feed than they were worth. And then the flip side, when there was a bad year, like a drought or something, cattle would be really expensive, but you couldn't sell enough of them so you wouldn't make any money either. So the government stepped in and said, hey, we're going to like stabilize farm prices. But the trade-off is that now we end up in a world where like a Whopper is like $4.99, which is also the price of like one bottle of like pomegranate juice or something, right? Like you have these bizarre things where it's like, okay guys, like there's no possible way raising this animal up, feeding it, pumping it full of antibiotics, slaughtering it, processing it, grinding it, cooking it, and selling it to you is equal in cost to like picking a pomegranate and juicing it and sticking it in a bottle. But it's not. It's just because of your tax dollars subsidizing it. So really, they should stop the tax subsidies on beef before we all have to, like, you know, decide morally we can't eat beef, right?
You probably would still like it.
Maybe.
Vegetable meat has made it really far. I had some vegetable chicken breasts.
I didn't realize those were a thing.
They have nailed chicken breast. They got it, like, perfect.
Damn, all right.
It is on point. I would have just thought it was normal chicken.
You're telling me that chicken breast is indistinguishable from synthetic chicken breast, in your opinion?
Yeah, like the vegetable chicken breasts that were made by Morningstar are really good. And also the veggie meat crumbles. That's really...
Yeah, that's interesting that, Morningstar is like the before Beyond and Impossible. They were kind of the leader in like synthetic vegetarian alternatives. Gotta say, I think Beyond does it good and Impossible does it like even better. Obviously, the prices reflect that.
Really good too. I guess I can understand the not wanting to eat beef because of the massive negative impact that cows have.
I'm not in it for my health. Obviously, I don't take good care of myself. But I do want to lessen my impact a little bit.
Are you going to drink milk?
I was thinking about that. I thought maybe I'd go completely cow-free. I would be cow-vegan. Because I don't drink a whole lot of milk.
Get almond milk. Almond milk tastes better, and it's exactly the same.
Cutting milk out of my diet wouldn't be a big change.
Yeah, I actually stopped drinking milk when I was cutting weight for fights. And I actually think my body, like having went, a year where I never drank just like straight milk. And I think actually now the thought of drinking like a tall glass of milk feels kind of gross to me. And I'm not sure my stomach would like accommodate that. Like I can do like a little creamer in my coffee sometimes. And like a little bit of like cultured milk. Like I can do cheeses and dairy and, sour cream. But yeah, like straight mass amounts of milk. I don't know. I don't think my stomach would even handle it anymore.
Since I drank it maybe once a month, and I thought about it for a few more seconds. Nope, I still eat cheese. That's not going away.
Yeah, that's kind of the hard part. My sister has celiac disease, so she can't have any wheat at all.
She actually needs gluten-free stuff.
She actually does, because if she eats any kind of wheat, her body just like goes completely insane and it can't stand it. I thought maybe I might have it. I have some kind of weird intestinal problem. I don't know what it is. I haven't really bothered to look into it.
One of these days, you'll get health insurance that will enable you to find out.
I don't know. Whatever.
I mean, you could go to the VA and just like any one of their clinics and just be like, hey, I get intestinal, I get stomach pain when I do this, and they'll run the basic battery of tests. I gotta say, for a long time, I thought I had some sort of like celiac disease type allergy, right? Because I would get randomly these like really bad stomach pains, and I was like, is this like an ulcer? Is this like stress? Is this like, am I allergic to something that I'm eating? Like, is it the lead in the Washington D.C. water pipes? No, it was because I was so addicted to drinking those La Croix, the seltzer waters. And soda. Well, I didn't do soda. I did some diet sodas, but just the La Croix. That the carbonation just destroyed my stomach. And as soon as I stopped those, like clockwork, I was fine. It was the weirdest thing, which is like a testament to the fact that carbonation, the human beings were not meant to drink beverages that were carbonated. And I don't know how the cola companies convinced us that that was a good idea. like the drinking, someone was like, here's this black bubbling liquid that burns a little bit as it goes down. And somehow we convinced huge swaths of human beings to drink it. It's bananas.
Or you just keep
Nothing else in nature do you drink is pitch black.
shitting yourself.
I'll just keep shitting myself. I don't really fucking care. Yeah, so like I tried to do that for a little bit, and it's just everything has wheat in it.
Yes.
It's just everything.
Lots of things have wheat and sugar in them.
Fine. Okay, I can't eat wheat. All right, well, I'm gonna get this box of wheat. Well, no, I can't eat the wheat thins.
You gotta get corn chips.
Okay, Triscuits have wheat in them. All right, fine. I'll get this box of potato chip that has wheat in it.
Yeah.
What
Potato chips?
doesn't have wheat in it? Tostitos.
Yeah.
That's corn flour. That one's different. I got some like corn flour bread at one point. Oh, it's so bad. Oh, it tastes awful. It's not good. I hate it. It's like cornbread, only terrible.
Oh no, cornbread's so good.
Oh.
But yes, to get back to the point, yeah, no more beef.
I did not know that. I will have to start sneaking beef into Mike's house
Why?
just to make you eat beef again.
But why? Why would you do such a thing?
I don't know, because I'm evil.
Okay. I wouldn't say I'm a strict anti-beef guy. Like, I got some beef hot dogs in my freezer right now that I probably will eat, because it's not a cow puzzle. I can't put it back together. It's already dead.
That logic doesn't really make sense. The point of not eating beef, it's not to be self-righteous, right? It's the idea that beef producers produce to meet demand. And if you reduce demand, then in the aggregate, they'll produce fewer head of cattle, right?
Yeah.
It's a response to market conditions. But I want to point this out. The beef producers don't really need to care too much about that because, like we talked about, the subsidies will kick in and maintain a certain baseline floor price of that beef. So even if every single American tomorrow decided to stop eating beef, prices would fall. But because of the government subsidies, it would just mean that more of your tax dollars would get transferred to ranchers.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm also probably going to make an exception for pepperoni, because I can't just eat cheese pizza.
I thought pepperoni was ham.
Yeah, I think it is.
It's cured pork and cured beef, I believe.
Oh, okay.
I think you can do like a pure pork pepperoni.
It's like a mix?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, whatever. Who
Yeah.
cares about that?
I'm also going to make an exception for my dad's Christmas meatballs. That's an annual thing, and they're
Okay.
delicious. Yes.
Making a lot of exceptions here.
No,
I mean, this is the thing. If you reduce your meat consumption by 80%, you're achieving the same. You're achieving exactly 80% of the value of boycotting it without having to become such a Puritan.
I don't think so. The important thing is
This is exactly the important thing is he's reducing his meat consumption. This is sort of true. The 80% rule is true of a lot of things. You would be shocked how many people look at doing something like being like, well, I'm not going to work out. I'm not going to be one of those fitness freaks. But the reality is that if you do 80% of what you think you should do, you'll get most of the effects, right? If you, instead of working out, say you're supposed to work out 180 minutes a week. Well, if you work out 120, you're going to achieve most of the effects, most of the positive effects of working out on your health and mood and weight, etc. So I think it's really important to acknowledge that, a lot of people and in the modern world, we have this like purity culture where it's like, if you don't live your purest, most perfect life, or you don't optimize everything, like you're bad, you're not doing it right. And it's like, listen, dude, there is no doing it right. All right. You just gotta, if you can do 80%, the easiest 80%, right, you're going to get most of the effects. Put in the 20% of effort that's easy, get 80% of the effects, and you'll be good. It's sort of like flossing. Do I floss every day? Of course not. My goal is to floss like 80% of the time. And I get all the effects, right? When I go to get my teeth cleaned, guess what? I don't bleed. It's great.
reducing my meat consumption,
I don't get shamed.
which is important.
Eat nothing but meat and make yourself constipated.
Whoa, I didn't know this was the Joe Rogan experience.
I'm not going to take diet advice from you. No offense.
I give the best diet advice.
I thought briefly about becoming a pesco, pollo, cerdo vegetarian, which means I would eat chicken and fish and pork but I already don't eat fish, and I barely eat any
Why
pork.
don't you eat fish?
Why would I eat fish? It's just...
Fish is delicious.
Yo, dude, we cooked air fryer salmon the other day. Dude, the air fryer kills it. It's awesome. It's so good.
The only delicious fish I've ever eaten was the fish from the Alaskan Sea that the Navy served us.
Yeah, fish is great.
I also don't eat very much pork. I don't like pork chops. I don't like much ham. Bacon is not worth the hassle of cooking it up.
You need to broaden your horizons
Yeah.
on foods.
I'm just gonna keep on eating.
Try eating some weird stuff. You gotta have takoyaki.
Ooh, takoyaki is good.
Takoyaki are octopus dumplings.
I've had octopus before. It's all right.
It's an octopus dumpling though,
Meh.
but it's got octopus in it, and then this other stuff.
Yeah, if you don't like eating animals because they're smart, you should really not eat octopus. They're pretty crafty. They're just like brains with tentacles, honestly.
And it's like the perfect amount of sweet and savory.
Dumplings, it's just bread, so your sister would not be able to eat that either.
Well, there's something else in it. I can't remember.
Octopus.
You can actually use batters with different types of flour. You can make like a potato starch or a potato flour batter and fry in that. I bet it would be really similar.
Well, other than the octopus, there's like the sauce in there.
Yeah, but it's also bread, so
Have you ever had shark?
no.
Shark's really good. Have you ever had oyster?
No.
Have you ever had mussels?
You're listing off all of these meats you want me to try. I just told you I want to eat less meat to make less of an impact on the environment. I'll try other vegetables and fruits, maybe. It's been like a decade since I had a banana.
What does he eat? I'm hearing a lot of things that he doesn't eat. I want to know what he does.
Maybe they're good now.
No, they're still not. And that's just a fact. Bananas aren't good. Don't eat bananas.
Okay. You have to do that every once in a while. You have to reevaluate your taste buds, because your taste buds...
Do you want to know something crazy? You're on this channel, of course you do. Brussels sprouts. You haven't misremembered. Old Brussels sprouts used to be super gross. So gross. Bitter and acrid. And around 2000 or so, between 2000 and 2010, the people that grow Brussels sprouts developed a varietal that was less bitter. And once they did that, Brussels sprouts became so much more palatable. That's why you see like honey glazed Brussels sprouts, bacon, maple Brussels sprouts. They're everywhere now. They're so good. And it's because they actually re-engineered them to be even tastier. Not even tastier. They weren't tasty before. Marginally tasty.
buds change over time. I recently thought, I haven't had celery in forever. Celery's probably good. People always talk up celery. They say it's mostly water, and I like water. So I will eat some raw celery and see how that tastes. Nope, don't do that. Raw celery is terrible.
Oh, I actually like raw celery.
Gross.
I'll just go to town on some celery. Or
Yeah.
carrots. I love carrots.
No, it's so bitter. Carrots are fine, though.
I wonder if eating food is really necessary. Could I just not eat?
Oh man, have you guys seen the documentary on breatharians? Breatharians are people who are so woo-woo and new agey that they think that they can survive on sunlight, despite the host of evidence to the contrary. And I guess some of them have died, but like it's kind of messed up because there's these gurus that claim to be surviving on sunlight when it's obviously not the case, right? There's it's great. I'm going to try to find it, but it's all of these just total fraud gurus being like, I don't eat, I survive on sunlight and I look great. And like that's like, well, why do you have a refrigerator full of food at your house?
There are reports of people that are called sun gazers, and they would stare at the sun and get energy from the sun.
I don't think that works.
You know, every good nonsense belief is based in like a core grain of truth. And sun gazing is one example of this, right? Your body needs a limited amount of sunlight on your skin in order to process your vitamin D, right? It helps metabolize it into something your body can use. So in a very narrow sense, the sunlight, it also helps regulate your circadian rhythm. Your body, when it gets sunlight and when it doesn't, it helps tell you when to go to sleep. So there are basic things that sunlight does provide to your body to be healthy. But obviously to exaggerate that and believe that it's all you need to survive. Remember, even plants don't need only sunlight to survive. They need sun, water, and nutrients from the soil. The sun is actually just the energy that drives the chemical process.
I think they're full of shit. I think that as soon as the reporter that's investigating that turns around, they're just jamming 50 Twinkies down their craw. immediately hook themselves up to an IV, pumping a beef broth into their veins.
Oh, gross. Gross.
But you want a lot of guns. Don't you want to... You should probably taper that hobby a little bit. Otherwise, you'd have a lot of firearms and not much else.
I actually don't have that many guns right now.
Wait, how many is that many? My bet is not that many is 5.
At the moment, no.
No, I think I only have 7.
Is this a cycle you go through where you say, I want this gun, and then you have that gun for 5 years and you sell it for money because you want a different gun now?
That happens.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to do it, actually. I think people need to realize how much of their used stuff they can sell for most of what they paid for it, especially things that retain their value really well, like firearms. Yeah, you'd be crazy not to. Like, you can love firearms and you can own 100 different ones, and like when you get bored with it, just remember to sell it.
Yeah. That does happen, yes.
At least you're willing to admit it.
No, that does happen, yes, where I'll buy a gun and then like a couple years later I'll be like, nah, I don't really like this one so much. I'm gonna...
Yeah, I had that. I had like this cool... What is going on? There we go. I had this cool Israeli-made Galil clone, U.S. legal Galil, and I really enjoyed it. I loved having it, but I went like 2 years and I never shot the thing. And then I was just like, why do I own this? This thing just sits. It sits and is like kind of dangerous. And so I decided, I just sold it. I'm like, you know what? If I decide in the future that I miss it so much, I'm just gonna buy it again.
To sell it
But I'll tell you, I haven't.
and buy a different gun. I do that.
Doesn't it seem absurd to you?
No, not really.
No, you enjoy something and then you pass it on to someone else to enjoy, and you enjoy something new. This is how human beings work. Things have novelty and then they become routine and normal and you move on.
Oh,
Guns retain their value decently well.
I'm not saying it's a waste of money. It just seems absurd. You'd have a pistol, a rifle, and a shotgun, but you gotta keep swapping out the models. You gotta trade your Impreza for an Impala. You keep on trading.
Why would I trade my Subaru Impreza for an Impala? I hate the Impala.
You hate them now, but who knows, a few years
Nope,
from now.
still won't like it. However, I will say that the new 2020 Chevy Corvette it actually makes me angry how much I like that car.
Excuse me, we're in the future. It's the 2257
Oh,
Corvette.
yeah. Okay, sorry. I do buy and sell guns on a frequent basis. I think the ones that I have...
Guys, if you haven't checked my podcast with Zach, man, the link is in the description, Combat Veteran Breakdown. We talk about his work at a gun store and all the different gun things that have happened around it. It's a really good conversation.
Have now, I'm not really planning on getting rid of anytime soon. I have a Steyr-AUG, and I'm not planning on getting rid of that one anytime soon because I wanted a bullpup rifle since I was about 12 years old. When I started getting really interested in guns, I remember seeing the Steyr-AUG and thinking that it was so cool and so futuristic, and now I own one, so I really have no plans on getting rid of it.
5 years from now, it might be a different story.
I really don't think so. I think that Steyr-AUG is probably one of the guns that I'm going to keep for a very, very long time.
Do you think it's normal for a man to own 7 guns? How many guns do you think
In the state of Pennsylvania, there are 2 guns for every person.
the average person owns?
The average person...
The average gun owner probably owns like 2 or 3 guns.
That's
a fine number.
Doesn't it get costly maintaining 7 weapons and then having the ammunition for 7 weapons?
No, because I don't shoot all 7 of them all the time.
You just...
It would be cool if he did. Just some sort of system of like pulleys where he just...
possess them.
I just have 7 guns. And many of them are in the same caliber.
If somebody thought that was an excessive amount of guns, would they be wrong?
Yes.
Yeah.
Listen, okay, guns are tools, guys, and is it excessive? If you have 7 distinct firearms for 7 distinct uses, then it's not, right? If you are someone who goes, hey, I like to or compete in 3-gun shooting, and I also hunt, and I also want to like protect my family, and I like going skeet and trap shooting, then you're like, there you go, 7 firearms. Totally justified. Each has their own unique use.
Who touched Sasha? Who touched my gun?
Oh, it's a Team Fortress 2 joke in a Fallout joke. I love it.
Ooh, that reminds me. Have you named any of your guns?
I don't think so. I haven't named any of my guns since I was in the military.
Not since Piper. Are you going to?
Probably not.
Are you going to go home and decide, You look like a Wendy to me. Clarence. Yes, Clarence.
Why do they have old-timey British names? Especially the Steyr Og. The Steyr Og should obviously have an Austrian name. It should be like Gustav.
Maybe at some point I'll go to Remington 870 and name it Cass. Any building in the entire United States, you can burn it down and you will not get in trouble for it. What building do you burn down?
Oh, interesting. Oh, this is hypothetical. I thought he was going to give me some sort of loophole that I never heard of before.
Fire station, because it's ironic. Who would put out the fire?
The fire department that's at the fire station.
Well, they can't get in their trucks. The trucks are on fire.
Probably just the neighboring fire department. They would probably show up and put it down. Mm-hmm. Or put it down.
Put down the fire.
Put it down, just shooting the fire.
I'm sorry, your fire is 15 years old. Its eyes have gotten bad. We're going to have to put it down.
It's like the Springfield tire fire, just never stops.
Jeez. I can burn down any one building and I won't get in trouble for it.
Oh, we're not getting in trouble for the things we burned down now?
No, you're not getting in trouble for it. That's what I
Okay.
said. I specified that you won't get in trouble for it.
All right.
Probably Dick Cheney's house.
Ah, getting a little political, are we? Don't like Dick Cheney. Bit of a warmonger. Bit of a warmonger.
I mean, he literally sent Zach to get killed in Iraq, so, you know.
Who profits off people being killed.
I don't think I can say that on the internet.
But he just did.
Because that would be real.
Because then he's going to come after me. Dick Cheney is just a modern-day boogeyman.
I hear if you look in the mirror and say his name 3 times, he pops out and takes all your oil.
That's pretty good.
No, he pops out and shoots you in the face with a 12 gauge.
Ah, sorry, I thought you were a peacock.
Thought you were a bird. Well, on the other end of the spectrum, there is the fact that Epstein didn't kill himself.
That's not relevant to the conversation.
I had to throw it in there, though.
Okay, free Hong Kong.
Free Hong Kong.
Oh no, my Chinese sponsors. I don't have any Chinese sponsors. But thanks to today's all-American sponsor, Manscaped. I think they are actually an American company.
This video has been immediately banned.
You can't get YouTube in China.
So I can say whatever I want about the Chinese government.
Probably, yeah.
Hong Kong #1, China #4. Free Hong Kong.
Okay, if you don't know that video, it's hilarious.
It's not a show. Do it. Do it,
Free
China.
Hong Kong. Free
Do it.
Hong Kong.
Do
Fuck
it,
you, China.
Fuck you, Chinese government.
Well, that warms my heart, guys. That warms my heart. We can all, except LeBron James and John Cena, get behind the Chinese government's crimes against the Uyghurs and their oppression of Hong Kong's and curtailing of their free speech rights. Guys, thanks so much for joining me on this journey. Be sure to follow me on Twitch because I'm going to start streaming there every day-ish. Sort of a lot more. That's the place to catch my streams, and we're gonna do some Tarkov, some Team Fortress 2, some live reactions, even some other games that I haven't thought of yet. But thanks so much for joining me, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.